I work as a bartender at a dive bar. It's usually filled with lost souls and strange stories. But last month, something weird happened. I still think about those strange encounters. One night after closing, I wiped down the bar. It was quiet, just me and the fading scent of spilled drinks. I noticed a glass of whiskey sitting there. No one ordered it. I thought about ignoring it, but something pulled me in. I leaned closer and smelled it. It had a bitter metallic scent. A chill ran down my spine and I hurried to clean up. I locked the door behind me and rushed home. Weeks passed and I tried to forget about that glass. The bar was just the same. Regulars came in, and sometimes newcomers stumbled through the doors. But then, I noticed an old man. He always sat alone in the corner, wearing a tattered coat. He never ordered a drink. Instead, he left behind strange little trinkets, like a toy soldier made of odd material, a cracked mirror that gave an eerie reflection, and an old key that felt heavy in my hands. One night, I was closing up again. The bar was empty except for that old man. I felt something behind me, shadows shifting, but I kept cleaning. Then I heard whispers. I turned, but no one was there. My heart raced. The air felt thick, making it hard to breathe. I looked back at the old man, and he was watching me with eyes that held a deep sadness. It unsettled me. The next time he came in, I decided to ask if he was okay. I wanted to connect. He just stared at me and smiled. His teeth were stained dark, and I felt foolish for asking. Before I could go back to work, he slid the toy soldier across the bar to me. I picked it up. It felt heavy. The eyes looked almost alive. I almost threw it back, but instead I set it down slowly. I tried to push my confusion away. I thought maybe I was just tired. But things got stranger. I saw shadows darting around the bar at night. Whispers echoed from the walls. Sometimes, it felt like voices called my name. I didn't know if I was losing my sanity or if something else was happening. The old man seemed to want to tell me something. I felt that he had a message, but I couldn't figure it out. Was he a ghost? Was he a sad man who lost touch? The more I thought, the more lost I felt. Then one night, I turned off the jukebox. That's when I heard a faint whisper. "Why are you still here?" I spun around. The bar was empty, but I felt a weight on my shoulders. It was like someone was watching me. I couldn't shake that feeling. Those 3 encounters still haunt me. I don't know what they meant. I don't know what it all means. But I live with those memories, echoes of a night that still feels very much alive. That next evening, I opened the bar with a sense of dread. I felt it in my bones, like a storm brewing just beyond the horizon. I tried to push it away, telling myself it was just paranoia. But the thoughts lingered, wrapping around me like a fog. As the night wore on, the usual crowd trickled in. Regulars swapped their familiar stories, laughter mixed with the clinking of glasses. But I couldn't shake the feeling. I kept glancing at that empty corner table where the old man usually sat, his presence a heavy void in the bar. I half expected him to appear, leaving behind another trinket, another hint. But he didn't show. Then, around midnight, my eyes caught a flash of movement from the corner of the bar. It was quick, just a blur of dark clothing. I moved toward it, my heart racing, only to find an empty booth. I brushed it off as my imagination playing tricks on me. Yet that's when I noticed something at the edge of the table, a small piece of paper. I picked it up. It was crumpled and stained, and my hands trembled slightly as I unfolded it. The writing was messy but legible. It read, "The key opens more than just doors." My pulse quickened. Was this a message for me? I looked around, half expecting the old man to be right behind me, but the bar remained eerily quiet. Deep down, a sense of urgency sparked inside me. Without thinking, I began searching through the drawers behind the bar, my fingers trembling as I rummaged through old bottles and dusty cocktail shakers. It felt absurd, but I needed to find that key. the one he'd left me weeks ago. When I finally unearthed it from beneath a stack of napkins, I felt a thrill of anticipation. The old man had clearly wanted me to have it. But for what? Unsure of what to do next, I took a breath, my eyes darting back to the empty booth. My skin prickled as I imagined his sad gaze boring into me, urging me to act. I locked the bar and stepped out into the cool night air, the key chuckling in my pocket like it had its own secrets. I made my way to the back entrance of the bar, where I knew an old junkyard provided a maze of forgotten things. Perhaps there, beneath layers of dust and debris, I'd find a lock, something that tied the strange events together. Once I arrived, a sense of foreboding washed over me. The moonlight barely penetrated this place. Shadows clung to the heaps of rusted metal and broken furniture. I felt the key weigh heavier in my pocket, like a beacon pulling me forward. As I walked deeper into the junkyard, I heard faint whispers once again, more pronounced than before. Find it. Find it. They echoed around me, tugging at my sanity. The hair on my arm stood on end. That's when I saw it. A dilapidated shed tucked away behind mountains of twisted metal. A lock hung loosely from the door, inviting yet ominous. I approached slowly, the echoes of the whispers growing louder, mixing with the rhythm of my pounding heart. My breath caught as I took the key in my shaky hand. I couldn't back down now. I inserted the key into the lock, the cold metal a jarring contrast to my warm skin. The door creaked as I turned the key, and just as I pushed it open, a gust of wind swept through, slamming it back against the wall. The shed was dark. Shadows danced around me, and I felt that weight again. Fear gnawed at my insides as I stepped inside. What awaited me in the darkness? And what would I uncover about the old man? Answers were within reach, yet I felt the growing danger looming. I stepped into the shed, the musty smell of decay wrapping around me. The darkness swallowed my sight, but soon, the glint of something metallic caught my eye. It was a table cluttered with various oddities, rusted tools, broken picture frames, and a collection of dusty bottles. My heart raced, my instinct screamed for me to turn back, but I pressed on, curiosity dragging me deeper into the shadows. I reached for a bottle, its label nearly unrecognizable, but as soon as my fingers touched it, a loud crash echoed from the back of the shed. I froze. The noise was like the sound of something heavy falling, and I could feel my pulse quicken. "Hello?" I called out, my voice shaky. No response came, just the whisper of the wind outside. Deciding against further exploration, I turned to leave. But then I noticed a faint light spilling from the back corner. It flickered, almost beckoning. I approached cautiously, my breath shallow. The light was coming from a small, cracked window. Peering in, I felt a chill run down my spine. There, in the dim glow, was a figure, a woman, her back facing me. She was hunched over a desk, scribbling furiously on what looked like a stack of old papers. Instinctively I ducked, pressing myself against the wall. Who was she? Something about the way she moved felt frantic, desperate. As I watched, she stopped writing and suddenly turned her head. I held my breath, praying she didn't see me. Her eyes were wild and filled with terror, as if she were haunted by something unseen. I shifted slightly to get a better look, and she caught sight of my movement. In a flash, she stood, knocking over her chair, the noise slicing through the air like a knife. "Who's there?" she yelled, her voice a mix of fear and anger. I felt frozen. What was I supposed to do? Run? Fight? Before I could decide, she spat out a warning. "Get out while you can. It's not safe here." That pushed me over the edge. I turned and bolted for the door, heart hammering against my chest. I shoved it open and fled into the junkyard. The moonlight was bright, but my vision was blurred with panic. I stumbled over debris, pain shooting through my ankle as I twisted. As I regained my footing and glanced back, the shed loomed over me, a dark sentinel against the night. The woman was still there, staring at me through the window, her expression now unreadable. I took off in the direction of the bar, each step fueled by adrenaline and a growing sense of dread. Once I was back, I locked the door tight. The familiar sight of the bar felt like a sanctuary, but I knew I couldn't shake off what I just witnessed. The message from the old man still echoed in my mind. The key opens more than just doors. What doors had I just opened? That night left me restless. The old man wasn't just a memory. He was part of something far bigger and far more dangerous than I had ever imagined. And the woman, what had she meant? I needed answers. My next move was clear, but I didn't know if I was ready for what lay ahead. But I knew one thing. I had opened a door, and now something was waiting on the other side. The next morning was drenched in a thick layer of fog. I groaned as the sunlight filtered through my window, cutting through the haze of sleep, but failing to lift the weight in my chest. My mind raced with thoughts of the woman and the chaos in the shed. I couldn't just ignore what had happened. I needed to go back. After a quick breakfast, I grabbed my keys and reluctantly stepped outside. The air was damp, and the gravel crunched beneath my feet. I found myself heading towards the junkyard again, the uneasiness climbing in my stomach like a coiled snake. What if she was still there? What if something else was lurking in the shadows? As I approached the shed, I felt a chill, as if the air itself was warning me to turn back. But curiosity pushed me forward. I reached for the doorknob, hesitating just long enough to wonder if I was making a colossal mistake. Finally, I twisted it and stepped inside. The musty scent was even stronger this time, a reminder of the secrets buried in the darkness. I glanced around, half expecting to see the woman at her desk again. But the shed was empty. Nothing but dust and scattered debris met my gaze. Disappointment washed over me. Had it all been a dream? Then, out of the corner of my eye, I caught a glimmer on the desk. I approached cautiously. When I got closer, I realized it was one of the dusty bottles I had touched the night before. It was different now, the label partially torn but readable. I could make out a word, elixir. My pulse quickened again. What was it a potion for? I turned the bottle in my hands, pondering when a creak from behind me made my heart leap. I whirled around, dread gripping my throat. The door had swung shut, casting shadows across the room. Was someone else here? I strained my ears, listening. Silence stretched before me, thick and suffocating. Then I heard it. A whisper, faint and desperate. Help me. The voice floated through the small cracks in the walls, echoing off the metal and wood. It sounded eerily like the woman from last night. "Hello? Is someone there?" I called out, my voice trembling slightly. No answer came, just that haunting whisper. I turned back to the desk, feeling a desperate urge for answers. That's when I saw it, a folded piece of paper tucked under the bottle. With shaking hands, I retrieved it and unfolded it slowly. My breath caught in my throat as I scanned the words. They were frantic, illegible in places, but I could make out one clear message. Beware the key. What did that mean? Was it about the old man's warning? Suddenly I heard the door jostle violently. My heart dropped. Someone was trying to get in. I pressed my back against the wall, my mind racing. Whoever, whatever, was out there. I couldn't let it find me. Just as I thought I might escape unnoticed, the door burst open, and a figure stepped inside. I barely had time to process it before everything went dark. I woke with a start, confusion flooding my mind. The shed was gone, replaced by swirling darkness. My senses were heightened, every sound muffled, every breath shallow. I struggled to regain my bearings. Where was I? It took a moment to realize I was on the floor, my forehead pressed against something hard and cold. I pushed myself up, blinking to clear my vision. The dim light filtering through the cracked windows revealed a figure, tall and imposing, standing over me. My heart raced as I scrambled backward. "Are you all right?" the figure said, his voice low but steady. I squinted at him, trying to make out details. He was older, grey hair peppered with black, eyes sharp like a hawk's. But there was something unsettling about his presence. "Who are you?" I stammered, my mind racing to place him. Had I seen him before? "Just a friend," he replied too smoothly. I noticed he wore a dark jacket, and his hands were tucked into his pockets. There was a calmness about him that was both reassuring and eerie. "I need to know what you found here." I couldn't help but glance around. The desk, the bottles, the paper, they were all still there. My gaze snapped back to him. "What do you mean?" "That bottle," he said, his tone sharp. "It can unlock something powerful. You need to be careful." A chill washed over me. "Unlock what? I don't understand." He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "The key is not a physical object. It's something hidden, something you should never seek out." His words hung heavy in the air. My pulse pounded in my ears. "But there's a woman," I heard her whisper. The man's expression shifted slightly. "She isn't what she seems. We all have our secrets here." Before I could respond, a noise interrupted us, a scraping sound like metal on wood growing louder. My heart jumped again. I looked to the door, now ajar, and caught a glimpse of shadows moving outside. The sounds grew more frantic, like someone, or something, was trying to break in. "Get out of here, now!" the man urged, grabbing my arm. I jerked away, panic rising. "What's going on?" "I can't explain everything," he said urgently, "but you have to trust me. Leave this place before it's too late." But my feet felt rooted to the spot. I stole a glance at the desk one last time, the paper, the elixir. I couldn't just walk away now. "What about the woman?" I demanded. "Forget her. You have to focus on your safety. She's not what you think. A trap. A lure." Before I could reply, the door burst open entirely, and I froze as a dark figure rushed in, its eyes glowing with an otherworldly light. I glanced back at the man, whose face had gone pale. "Run!" he shouted, and just like that, I found my feet. I bolted past him, fear fueling my every move. But as I sprinted toward the door, I felt a pull, as if something was dragging me back toward the darkness I had just escaped. What was in that shed, and what other secrets lay waiting? I didn't look back. I couldn't. I burst through the door, my heart racing as I stumbled into the night air. My mind was a chaotic mess, trying to process the warning, the figure, and the glowing eyes. I looked around, trying to find my bearings, but everything felt foreign. Moonlight filtered through the trees, casting long shadows that danced in my vision. I ran through the narrow path that led away from the shed, my breath coming in sharp gasps. Each step felt like I was chasing the darkness behind me. The cool air didn't help. My skin prickled, and I shivered despite the warmth of adrenaline pumping through me. Then I heard it, a low, guttural sound that seemed to echo through the night. It sent a fresh wave of terror through me. I glanced back over my shoulder but saw nothing, just the dark outline of the shed now far behind me. Whatever that thing was, it was coming after me. I zigzagged through the trees, branches snapping under my hurried movements, hoping to confuse whatever was pursuing me. The memory of that man's face haunted me, pale and urgent. I felt so lost. I needed to figure out what was happening and why. After what felt like an eternity of weaving through the underbrush, I stumbled into a clearing. The moonlight bathed everything in an eerie glow, illuminating an old bar nestled between the trees. It looked almost abandoned, but a warm light flickered from inside. Maybe there were people there. Maybe they could help me. I approached cautiously, the door creaking ominously as I pushed it open. A small bell chimed above me, and the scent of whiskey and stale cigarettes filled the air. The place was mostly empty, just a few scattered patrons in the corners, nursing their drinks. At the bar, a bartender with a weathered face looked at me with raised eyebrows. "You look like you've seen a ghost," he said, pouring a shot into a glass. "I need to." I hesitated, the words catching in my throat. "I need to know if anyone has talked about weird things happening around here." The bartender chuckled, but his eyes shifted toward a shadowy figure in the corner. A woman sat alone, her back turned to me. "We get all sorts of strange here," he said, sliding the drink toward me. "But she's the one you'd want to ask if you're looking for answers." Curiosity bubbled alongside my fear, but the darkness lurking outside seemed to pulse in my mind. I hesitated, then took a step toward her. I noticed her long hair, black as night, and an unsettling calm about her. But before I could say anything, she turned slowly and her eyes locked onto mine. "Hello," she said, her voice smooth and inviting. "I've been waiting for you." "Waiting for me?" I repeated, my voice shaky. Suddenly the bar's lights flickered, and in that moment I felt the air grow heavy. I realized too late I wasn't the only one searching for answers. My instincts flared, and without thinking, I backed away. Then everything went dark. I stumbled, trying to catch my breath as I struggled to make sense of what was happening. The last thing I heard was the faint sound of laughter. Then silence. I gasped as I emerged from the blackness. My heart thudded loudly in my chest, and a disorienting wave of panic washed over me. The bar was still there, though all the lights had gone out. The only illumination came from the flickering moonlight seeping through grimy windows. I felt my throat tighten. Where was everyone? In the dimness, I made out shadows. Patrons frozen in place, drink glasses held in midair, as if caught in a moment of breathless anticipation. I blinked hard, trying to make sense of what I was seeing, but nothing moved. My instinct screamed at me to turn and run once more, but a small part of me wanted to uncover the truth hidden in this eerie silence. Just then, the lights crackled back to life, illuminating the bar where time seemed to have stopped. I took a step forward, the boards creaking underfoot. The patrons glanced at me, their eyes wide and filled with curiosity, but also something else. Fear. "What just happened?" I asked the bartender, who stood behind the counter with a bemused expression. His face was shadowed, but I could see that he had a strange glint in his eyes. He shrugged. "Guess the place has a mind of its own. Happens sometimes." A shiver coursed through me as I glanced at the woman from the corner. She hadn't moved. I felt her gaze washing over me, as if she knew something crucial. "Why were you waiting for me?" I blurted, my voice steady despite the tremor in my hands. She smiled, but it didn't touch her eyes. "Because you've come looking for answers," she said softly, though her tone chillingly hinted at knowing more than I did. "You have questions, and I can help you." "What do you mean?" I pressed, my pulse quickening. "What can you tell me? About the figure I saw? About the woods?" The woman tilted her head, considering me. "The figure is a warning. You're on the brink of something much darker." My breath caught in my throat. "Darker? What are you talking about?" Before she could respond, the door flew open, and a gust of chilly air swept through the bar, snuffing out the soft glow of the lights. I stumbled back, shocked. A new figure stood in the doorway, obscured by the darkness. "Get away from her," he shouted, stepping forward. Recognition hit me. He was the man from the shed, the very man who had warned me. "Why didn't you get to her sooner?" the woman hissed angrily, spinning towards him. I couldn't believe the tension crackling in the air. I wanted to understand, to ask questions, but all I could feel was dread creeping in. The walls felt like they were closing in on me. My instincts kicked in. There was no way I could stay here any longer. And then it happened. A low growl echoed through the bar, silencing everyone and freezing my blood. Someone was outside. Something was out there. "Run!" the man yelled, his voice cutting through the tension like a knife. My body reacted before my mind could catch up. I dashed towards the back exit, adrenaline coursing through me. But I knew it wasn't just fear driving me to escape. This was only the beginning. I needed to find answers, and the darkness was closing in fast. I burst through the back exit and stumbled into the alley behind the bar. The cool night air hit me like a slap, refreshing yet terrifying. I could still hear the low growl, now closer and more menacing. My heart raced as I fumbled to figure out my next move. A wave of anxiety gripped me. Some instinct told me this wasn't over. I turned to the left, into the shadowed side street, praying for safety. I had no real plan. I just wanted to be away from the bar, away from whatever horror was hiding in the darkness. My legs pumped furiously as I jogged along the narrow path, dodging trash cans and overgrown weeds. Each step echoed in my ears, a constant reminder of my flight. Why did you just run? I silently chastised myself. Did I even know where I was going? I was spiraling into panic when I heard heavy footsteps behind me. They were quick, too quick. It couldn't just be anyone. I glanced back, and my breath hitched in my throat. The figure loomed in the alley's dim light. It was a shadowy shape, too big to be just a man, its movements deliberate and predatory. I quickened my pace, lunging around a corner and darting deeper into the night. I needed answers, but every instinct screamed to keep running. Suddenly, the path in front of me opened into a small park. Streetlights flickered weakly, casting eerie pools of light. My heart sank. Nowhere felt safe. I paused, taking a moment to catch my breath and gather my thoughts. I had to focus. I needed to remember the warning, the woman's words. "You're on the brink," she had said. What did it all mean? I pulled out my phone, desperate for some direction, and checked for signals. Nothing. My chest tightened. No calls, no texts. I was alone. That's when I noticed it. A figure sitting on a bench. The faint glow from a nearby streetlight illuminated just enough of their face for me to make out features, a slightly crooked grin and wild eyes. It wasn't the woman, but the mischievous vibe was similar. "Looking for answers?" the figure called out, their voice oddly cheerful. I squinted at them, searching for any hint of danger. "Stay where you are," I replied, fear catching in my throat. "Who are you?" "Just a friend." They grinned wider, the shadows accentuating their features. "And a seeker of the truth. You shouldn't have run. The answers you're looking for are still ahead." "Tell me where to find them," I demanded, stepping forward in defiance. My fear was now overtaken by determination. I needed to know what I was facing. "Follow the path," they said with a cryptic nod pointing deeper into the park. "But be careful. The darkness has teeth." Before I could respond, I heard the footsteps again. They were unmistakable, drawing closer. The figure on the bench looked past me, their expression twisting with sudden dread. "Go!" they urged, standing up and backing away. "Now!" Panic surged once again, and without thinking, I bolted past them, deeper into the park. The sensations of unease and urgency pressing down on me. Behind me, I could hear the low growl again, distinct and demanding. Someone or something was hunting me. As I fled, I could only wonder what awaited me at the end of this path. Answers, or something worse. I sprinted through the park, my feet pounding against the rough asphalt, the darkness closing in around me like a thick fog. The growl had morphed into a guttural snarl, and I could feel it reverberating in my bones. The air was electric, crackling with a primal tension. I had to keep moving. Stopping felt like a death sentence. Twisting left, I plunged into a narrow path that cut through some bushes, hoping to evade whatever was chasing me. The underbrush scratched at my arms and legs, the sting barely registering above the pounding of my heart. I knew I shouldn't look back, but I couldn't help it. The shadows seemed to shift, a dark shape looming just out of sight. That's when I spotted motion ahead. A flicker of light caught my eye. Someone was at the edge of a clearing. It was a man, standing next to a small fire pit. His features were hidden beneath a hood, but he radiated an eerie calm amid my chaos. I hesitated, unsure whether to approach him for help or keep running deeper into the darkness. "Hey!" I called out, hoping my voice wouldn't betray my fear. "Can you help me?" He turned slowly, revealing a worn face that showed little surprise. "Lost, are you?" His voice was smooth, almost melodic, but it made my skin crawl. "I'm not lost. Something's chasing me," I shouted. But the moment I spoke, the growl intensified, filling the air with dread. The man's gaze sharpened, as if he felt the danger too. "Best you come closer then," he said, stepping aside to welcome me to the fire. The warmth from the flames was inviting, but I couldn't shake the sense of unease rising within me. Still, I took a step forward, glancing back over my shoulder. The sound of heavy footsteps was fast approaching. Just as I reached the fire, something rustled in the bushes nearby. I turned, heart racing, but it was only the old man's hand shooting up to silence me. "Wait," he whispered, his eyes narrowing. I strained to listen, and the growl morphed into frantic howling, followed by a chorus of voices echoing through the trees. I squinted into the shadows, my stomach dropping. It sounded like they were closing in around us. "Who are you?" I demanded, my voice shaky but firm. I needed answers. "Just a watcher," he replied, "and you're not the first to be caught in the web tonight." "Caught? What do you mean?" Before he could respond, a creature broke through the foliage, a massive wolf-like figure. It stood taller than any dog I had ever seen, with eyes glowing like fiery coals. My breath hitched. It froze for a second, assessing me, before it let out a fierce howl that echoed off the trees, sending a jolt of fear through my body. "It's not alone," the man said, his expression unreadable. He turned to me, his voice low but urgent. "You need to run. Find the others. They can help you." The growl of the beast deepened and instinct kicked in. I turned back toward the darkness, adrenaline heightening my senses as I charged away from the fire. "Wait!" "What others?" I yelled back, but I could feel the urgency of the moment, leaving no room for more questions. Then everything went dark. The lights of the park flickered out one by one, shadows crept in, and suddenly, the world felt like it was closing around me. I pressed on, but now I was truly blind, unable to see the path ahead. Only the sounds of the beast behind me kept me moving forward, pushing me into the unknown. What I had encountered was just the beginning of something much larger, and I didn't know if I would survive to find out what it was. I stumbled through the inky darkness, each breath ragged and shallow, the echo of snapping branches and panting growls chasing me deeper into the void. Panic surged, and for a moment I thought I might trip over roots or brambles. My heart raced as I weaved between trees, desperately trying to escape the chaos that had spiraled beyond my control. Just when my legs began to feel heavy, a break in the fog revealed a clearing ahead. Moonlight poured onto a weathered signpost, its wooden frame splintered, directing me toward a path that hinted at safety. I hesitated, glancing over my shoulder. The growling was now a haunting echo, fading in and out of reach, leaving me with the unsettling thought that whatever had chased me was waiting just out of sight. I rushed forward, drawn to a faint warm glow in the distance. I followed the flickering light, and soon found myself in front of an old wooden structure. The door was carved with intricate symbols I didn't recognize. My heart hammered as I cautiously pushed it open. Inside, the atmosphere shifted. The air hummed with energy, and the light pulsed rhythmically, illuminating strange artifacts on dusty shelves. I stepped into the room, my pulse still racing but curiosity pushing me to explore. Each object seemed to hold a story, a connection to something larger and ancient, but the pull of fear remained. a reminder that danger lurked. As I examined a peculiar bottle filled with a swirling liquid, a voice broke through the silence. "You shouldn't have come here alone." A figure emerged from the shadows, a woman with long hair and piercing eyes that bore an uncanny familiarity. It was the same woman I had seen in the shed, only now her demeanor was more serene, almost inviting. "What is this place? What's happening?" I asked, trembling. "The heart of the hidden world," she replied softly. "You opened a door by seeking the old man's key, one that shouldn't have been touched." Her words sent a chill coursing through me. "But you're not too late. You can still make it out." "How?" I rasped. "What if it finds me?" "The shadows will come for you, but knowledge is key. Each object here offers a piece of the puzzle." She gestured to the various trinkets lining the walls, their presence suffused with an ancient power. "To escape, you must confront your fears." Before I could reply, the ground trembled, and the wall behind her shuddered. It cracked open, revealing a vast darkness that beckoned ominously. Behind me, the door slammed shut as the snarls grew louder, resonating through the room like a dark symphony, punctuated by the sounds of claws scraping against wood. "Stay close," she instructed, stepping toward the darkness. "Trust in the choices you make here." My instincts screamed at me to flee, but I followed her without hesitation. Together we stepped into the abyss. The darkness enveloped us like a living entity, and the whispers returned. They were louder now, an overwhelming cacophony that pulled at my mind. I focused on the pounding of my heart until the chaos settled into a low hum. I gripped the bottle I had found earlier, feeling its weight in my hand. It was familiar, comforting amidst the terror. "Remember," the woman said, her voice now ethereal, "not all shadows seek to ensnare, some are guides." I stumbled forward, drawn into images that shifted in the darkness, visions of lost souls whispering in despair, shadows flickering with light as if they held a sliver of hope. Each moment revealed a clue about the old man, something about how he connected to the truth hiding in this darkness. In a burst of clarity, I spotted a shimmering path. "This way," I called out, leading us toward the glimmering light. It felt alive, a tangible thread to grasp onto. Just as the growls grew louder, we raced down the path, the darkness swirling behind us. My heart beat a frantic tempo as I reached ahead, grasping at the light that flickered like a dying star. I felt the shadows claw at my heels, but the light enveloped me, sparking warmth that pushed back the creeping cold. Suddenly, we broke through into a clearing flooded with silver moonlight, collapsing onto the ground in a tangle of limbs. We gasped for breath, looking around at the otherworldly beauty. The shadows roared at the edges of the clearing, howling with fury. "You've bought yourself time, but it knows where you are," the woman warned, her expression turning grave. I turned to her, confusion bubbling in my chest. "What is this place? What does it all mean?" "Something must be unlocked," she said, pointing to the path ahead where vines twisted against the center of an iridescent portal, shimmering with possibility. "Greatly keep the balance of light and shadow. The truth lies within." Before I could process the meaning, the shadow creatures surged forward. "Go!" the woman shouted, shoving me towards the glowing portal. "It's the only way to find answers and escape. You must unlock it." Fueled by adrenaline, I sprinted towards the portal. The shadows were right behind me, but the light began to swell, consuming everything, pulling me forward. With a final burst, I leapt into the portal, feeling the electric rush of energy envelop me. I landed hard, gasping as I emerged into the dim light of the bar, only it was different now. The atmosphere had shifted again, the shadows retreating to the corners as people stood frozen, blinking in confusion. The old man sat in the corner, smiling softly, as if we shared an unspoken understanding. In one swift move, I recalled everything, the encounters, the warnings, the choices. Yet even as the tension dissipated, a nagging sense of unfinished business echoed in my mind. I scanned the room, searching for the woman, but she was nowhere in sight. What was real? I whispered to myself, knowing part of me would always wonder. As I stepped out of the bar, the cool air hit my skin, igniting a lingering unease. I couldn't shake the feeling that the threat still lingered, hidden in shadows, just waiting. I moved away from that place, glancing back one last time, a strange blend of relief and dread pooling in my chest. The question of what had truly happened would haunt me forever. The stories of the lost would never cease, and I was now part of them, survivor, seeker, and keeper of unanswered mysteries. Life was different. I still think about it sometimes, turning back for a moment, knowing I had opened a door but unsure of what lay on the other side.